Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Star Wars Shatterpoint is now available to pre-order, and some stores are going to be getting a early access Padawan Ahsoka Tano. We're going to talk about this and much more. We learned a whole lot today with all the expansions that are available, everything that's going to be coming out on launch day for this game, all the stuff that's coming with it, lots of additional information as well. I feel like we got a mountain of information to pour through, so a little bit of admin stuff, and then we're going to dive right in. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are kicking off a brand new giveaway right now. It's for a $25 Amazon gift card. You can put that towards a gaming expansion of your choice. All you have to do to enter to win that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Also, I'd love for you guys to check out our Discord. We have a great family-friendly gaming Discord. It's very much Star Wars tabletop focused. We've got channels for X-Wing, Armada, Legion, Shatterpoint, lots of tabletop gaming discussion in there, and super cool environment. So if you want to keep the discussion going, that's a great place to do it. I also want to hear your thoughts down in the comments section on what your thoughts are on Shatterpoint, on the Padawan Ahsoka Tano that we're going to talk about, and any of the other products that we see available up for pre-order right now. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. First up, Padawan Ahsoka Tano. This was kind of leaked earlier today. We are going to be getting a Padawan Ahsoka Tano. This is an alternate. We already are seeing like the season 7, Siege of Mandalore era, like teenage Ahsoka Tano, like a Jedi Knight, but like Jedi no longer. So it's that kind of interim mid-level, more powerful Ahsoka Tano in the core set. But this is the younger. This is the younger Snips kind of Ahsoka Tano, and this one's going to be really cool because I imagine she'll probably play differently. It's really unclear if this is going to be a whole separate expansion or like a whole different kind of unit, or if he's just going to be a different proxy model to swap in for regular Ahsoka. I would imagine the power level being different between these two, that she'll actually play differently. And, again, there's a lot of guesses. I think some people are divided on it, on whether or not she's going to be her own, her own commander or leader level, or maybe like that lieutenant level. It would make more sense for maybe her to be pairing up with Anakin Skywalker as like in that same squad, as kind of like taking the place of Rex. You would normally see him with the 501st. Now, the confusion about this came in that it's kind of launching with pre-orders. If you pre-order this from a local store, a brick and mortar store that's part of the Hobby Next program, then you'll be able to potentially get this. It's unclear if this is going to be free with pre-orders or if you're just going to be given the opportunity to buy it, but because it's not listed on the Asmodee store right now. Asmodee has, and like Atomic Mass Games has chimed in on social media and clarified some things about this. So here's what we know. This is going to be something that you don't get if you order from the Asmodee store. So if you go to shop.asmodee.com, which is a website we're going to be looking at here in a little bit to go over everything else, this is not going to be available there now. It's not going to be available there now. This is an early release. It's not an exclusive. A lot of stuff we've seen in the past, most recently with the Grogu, the little mini baby Yoda, with the soup, that we saw from Mandalorian, all that kind of came out with the Hobby Next program. That was an exclusive. That was like, hey, but that was only a model. There was nothing else with that. This is an actually early release. And what this means is that this is going to come out on its own, available to everybody who wants it eventually, just not on release day for everybody. So I think that's. So this is why it's like sort of a mixed bag from me, because if you are able to, if you're able to get one, then that's really cool. You get something new early, and it kind of makes your good guy lists a little bit better. Of course, what's a good guy list really in this game, because you can mix and max factions. but that's only going to be available to you if you pre-order from a Hobby Next store. Those tend to be more popular stores with a higher amount of sales, more successful stores, stores in bigger, more populated areas. There is a list. If you hop in our Discord, there's a Shatterpoint channel, and links are down in the description below. You can go to the Shatterpoint channel, and there's a pinned post, which is with a store locator that one of our users, Remork, commented. So you can check that out and see where the nearest Hobby Next store is in your area. So there's ways you can find out. Hey, is there a store near me? How far will I have to drive to a store where I can pre-order this? If you pre-order it online through Asmodee, you're not. This isn't included in that. But what I think is most interesting about this is that if this is going to be a standalone release, and it's unclear whether or not this will be completely standalone when it eventually comes out, or if it'll be part of a bigger pack. But this seems to indicate that not all expansion content for this game will be in the form of those 4 packs that we're going to take a look at, like the High Ground pack that we saw with ObiWan and Cody. And they might actually have individuals, or maybe 2 packs or 3 packs. Like they could potentially do a lot of different things. And so I think that is actually pretty interesting, because I've always had questions. So far, everybody they've shown has supporting units that work together with them that makes sense, and there hasn't been any overlap and any copies yet. And so I was like, how long can they do that for before they have to be like, oh, here's somebody else with B1s, and how many B1s am I really gonna need, and things like that. And so if they could eventually do like hero only packs, that'd be kind of cool, or at least a few standalone one-offs, that could also potentially work, which is interesting. But I think this is something that a lot of people are going to be divided on. Some people don't like, especially if you don't have a store near you that is that's going to have this particular Ahsoka Tano available early, and you may have to wait. That could be a little bit of a bummer. I could see that. I could see that being a negative. But I think it's better. I think it's a step forward, because it's definitely better than an exclusive that now all the scalpers are going to get, and it's going to be $300 on eBay. That won't work here, because this is going to be available to everybody eventually. So I think early access is definitely preferable to exclusives, but at the same time, it's weird that you can't get it on Asmodee's website. I used to think they wanted to encourage pre-orders directly from their website more so than brick and mortar, but apparently that's not the case, because they're really trying to give a good incentive to brick and mortar stores. And that's great too, honestly, because you got to support the places that you play, right? You got to pre-order from your local stores. You got to support your local stores. Sometimes that means paying a little bit more than maybe you could find it cheaper online somewhere. Sometimes that means paying a little bit more if that also keeps the bills paid at the local store. Because we all need places to play also. And so, that's kind of where I can see both sides on this. But I think the end takeaway is I like the idea of early releases more so than exclusives. So that's kind of cool. Let's go ahead and jump into all the pre-order stuff. So I'm going to be using Asmodee's website right now. We have all kinds of interesting stuff. We got a dice pack. The dice pack's going to be $15. Looks like you're getting 10 dice of each type. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rather, 8 attack dice and 6 defense dice. At least that's what's in the picture there. We've got one of the terrain packs. We've got 2 of the terrain packs. We've got a measuring tools pack. The measuring tools pack is also 15. The terrain packs are $75 each. ObiWan Kenobi is $50, and then we have the Dooku pack, which is called Twice the Pride, which is cool. We're gonna take a look at that, and then of course our core set. So I want to we'll look at each of these in a little more detail. We've got our dice pack here. One thing that's kind of cool is there are certain symbols that are common on both, because we can get really good looks at the dice here. There are certain symbols on the dice. You've got this Pokeball looking symbol here, then you've got this diamond, and then you've got this star that is broken in half. Now if we go to the attack dice, you've got what look like hits, and then you've also got maybe the inverse hit with the circle around it right there, which might be a crit, might be a critical. Then you've got this diamond symbol, but then you also have that star with that's cracked in half. My guess is that cracked in half symbol is somehow related to the name Shatterpoint. I recently read the Shatterpoint book, and it kind of was like Mace Windu's power to be able to see the Shatterpoint in somebody's defenses. Like, you could be perfectly armored, but I found the one weakness in your, in your armor, and if I hit you here, it unravels everything else. And that not only applied to physical armor, but also applied to a strategy. Like, the weakness in your plan is this, the weakness in this city's defenses is this part, things like that. And so if this is a Shatterpoint symbol, that'll be kind of interesting, because why is it also on defense dice? Maybe when I'm defending, I can still shatter your attack. Like, maybe it's a complete nullification of what your opponent's dice are, or something like that. I don't know. That's a guess, because the fact that it's the fact that it's there on both dice, maybe it's the equivalent of a blank too. But I have a feeling it's not a blank, because they could have just a blank would have been easier. I think it has something to do with the name Shatterpoint, because we haven't seen, like, why did they go with the name Shatterpoint yet? And if it's on the dice in enough quantities, then that could be pretty interesting. We've got our terrain. So let's look at some of the terrain here. We've got this is the Take Cover terrain pack. And now I asked some questions on Twitter. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, you may have already seen it. If you haven't yet, if you're not following me on Twitter, there are links in the description below. You can check out all the social media stuff, Patreon, the Crabbok.com, all kinds of cool stuff like that. But I asked about this terrain because in the case of the core set, which comes with a ton of terrain, are these terrain packs, are they just like extra versions of the same stuff that comes in the core set, or are they like fully unique terrain? And the answer was actually somewhere in between. These are separate sets. They're not exact copies of the stuff that comes in the core set, but they said there is some overlap. But again, it's similar design structure, a similar kind of design, or similar motif, like same world kind of area. So there are certain parts that can, like, I imagine these ladders are going to be in everything, so you're going to see certain things that there's going to be a little bit of overlap. And so, but there's also certain elements that are unique to each one. Like, for example, I think these rocky outcroppings here, and maybe this piece here are going to be unique to this one. Maybe even this part here. So that's kind of cool. And so I thought that was actually really forthcoming. AMG has been like hitting home runs on social media lately, and so I love how responsive they've been, which is really cool. All right, we've got the ObiWan Kenobi pack, the high ground pack. We've got some closer up looks at the miniatures. You can get these if you want to go over to shop.asmodee.com right now. If you go to shop by studio here, you can click on Atomic Mass Games. It'll take you there, and now you have the Shatterpoint section, so you can see all of the stuff that's available. So I thought that was pretty cool. But one of the things that I want to highlight and draw your attention to is the box components. It says includes 4 miniatures. You're going to see 3 unit stat cards, which implies that ObiWan Kenobi will have a unit stat card. Commander Cody will have a unit stat card. But then your 2 clone troopers, since they're 212th, I think is the, what is it? Is it the 212? Yeah, 212th. Good. All right, I'm trying to remember these. 501st is easy to remember. A lot of the rest of them I get mixed up. But these 212th clones are probably have the same stats, right? Probably. So those are 3 unit stat cards. We also have 3 stance cards. And this, I think, is really interesting. And I'm curious. I guess we'll have to wait and see. What are stance cards? If we look at games like Star Wars Legion, or any type of... a lot of fighting games have different stances. And those can be something from like offensive stance or defensive stance. Or those could be different forms of lightsaber combat. Stance cards, in this case, might apply to any character. Because it's not only lightsaber wielders that, in theory, can apply some type of stance. A stance could be your general posture in combat. You could take up a defensive posture or an offensive posture. You could lay down prone and be in a defensive stance, right? Or you could be rushing forward, charging forward, being more aggressive. I imagine the stance cards have something to do with that, but this is a big question. What are stance cards? How do they work? Are they only for lightsaber wielders, or will they apply to anyone in a unit. That's going to be a big question. We also have 3 order cards. How are order cards going to work? Sounds a little bit like Star Wars Legion, right? You're giving out orders and kind of, hey, this is the card I'm going to play. Because that's how the card play really works in Legion. Are we going to see similar kind of card and tactical card play and a little bit of bluffing or decision making through cards? My guess is that's what the order cards are going to be. And you're going to get 3 of each of those. So, I guess, if stances are lightsaber only, then maybe it's offensive, defensive, and like a middle stance. Or maybe it even turns into like a rock, scissors, paper game in between each round with your opponent. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I thought that was kind of exciting, though. All right, let's look at, we've got the high ground terrain pack. Now, this one has some, this one is a set that is a little more similar to, I think, what we're going to see in the core set. Because I think one of the towers is very similar to, like, they said that there's going to be a little bit of overlap. Some of these platforms might also be there, but I think like the big middle piece is all unique to this one and certain other little bits. So if we click on here, we can see like that big piece. I think that one is stands out. But this looks like a little bit familiar with the core set. The ladders, again, still ladders there. So there's a little bit of overlap. But this can be a really nice, like, I know we got some crates, and then you got a little bit of outcroppings, and it looks like a head on the outcropping, which is interesting. But yeah, so all of this is good stuff. I think if you're going to get a core set and you get one of these also, that's going to be a lot of terrain. And so I don't know if you're going to need that much more. I have an awful lot of terrain, but I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I want to get these, because I think it's going to depend on how terrain rules work, and we're gonna see some things that kind of help allude to that. But you are definitely getting a lot of multi-level stuff here. This has clearly got 2 different height levels, and I think that that's pretty cool. The ladder, by the way, on this piece is it stops off at one height level and goes all the way up to the next. So I thought that that's pretty cool, the way that they're making this terrain functional. You've got 2 height levels here, plus some terrain that's even above there. So you get a really tall piece in this box. And also terrain's kind of fun to paint because you're allowed to make mistakes with it, because there can be imperfections in a wall a lot easier than there can be imperfections on a face, right? So terrain, if you're a newcomer to painting and hobbying, I would definitely suggest get some terrain. Start out with the terrain until you get comfortable enough to then move on to the actual the troopers and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah. So there we go. All right, we've got a couple other pieces I want to talk about. The measuring tools. This one is interesting. First off, the movement tools. We got a little like you get the Dune C on like your short range movement tool. You even got like, is that R2D2 like moving through through Tatooine, like droid movement. In other words, slow like a droid, which is very, very cool. And then we've got a medium. Which is, you're seeing a Jedi there using a lightsaber, all right? Maybe force speed, all right? Or they're dueling, right? Like I like the little etchings that are in the movement tools are really cool. Marvel Crisis Protocol did very similar stuff where they put designs on a lot of the range and movement tools, and these are a step up. These are really cool. But unlike Marvel Crisis Protocol, which has 3, you have short, medium, and long. It looks like you just have short and long here. So it's a little more simplified movement speed. But to make up for that, there is also this third piece that's not actually a movement piece, but it looks like it's considered to be a range piece, but it's diagonal, right? And this looks to be like it may be involved in ascending and descending elevation, whether you're jumping or using a jetpack to go up or down. This looks like it's both, because it's diagonal, it's both measuring probably distance and height. So if you were going to jump up into a place, this is probably, hey, this is how high you can go, and this is how far you can go. You can't exceed that. That's my guess for this third piece in this photograph. We have other photos in here. The range tools. Now this one is going to be very familiar to Marvel Crisis Protocol fans. You've got a range 2, a range 3, a range 4, and a range 5 tool. Notice that the range 2 looks a little bit longer. In Marvel Crisis Protocol, range 2 was kind of like twice the length. Like range 1 was just like the width of the tool, so from here to here, as opposed to the whole length of the tool. So it may be something like that. But the two showing lightsabers indicating like melee range will typically be range 2. Range 3, it looks like they're throwing a thermal detonator, so maybe a grenade range. Range 4, looks like it's showing some Force Lightning, Dooku or Palpatine, right? So maybe I'm guessing a lot of Force powers will typically work at range 4. And range 5 is showing Han's trusty blaster, and a lot of other ranged weapons will typically work at range 5. Now, I don't think that this is the 100% rule. I'm sure there's going to be some guns that don't quite reach range 5. I'm sure that'll be the case, but I thought that that's pretty clever how they did all of that. And of course, a lot of people will want to paint these and do their own stuff with them. And these are all going to come in a pack for $14.99. This is totally optional. The core set already comes with these, but I found that, like, at least in playing like Marvel Crisis Protocol, and a lot of other games where maybe you just have one set of stuff, it really helps to have some extra dice and or extra movement tools, because of the fact that I like to have all of my stuff on one side. Like, and when you're passing these tools back and forth, somebody's always going to lose like the short movement. Like, where's the short? I was just here. Where is it? I gave it to you. Where is it? There's a lot of that sometimes happens. So if that happens in your households, maybe you'll want one of these, maybe not. It all depends. Let's see what else we got. We've got the Twice the Pride pack, which does feature Count Dooku, Jango Fett, and Magna Guards. So let's look at these guys. So here's Dooku and Jango. Now, somebody is, I think there was initially some confusion on, like, why are they putting Jango in here when he's already in the core set? And I want to clarify, Jango is not in the core set. There is a Mandalorian that comes with Bo-Katan that is posed to look like Jango, but it is not Jango. Now, I will say, Jango's color scheme is very similar to Bo-Katan's crew, the Night Owls, right? They're very, very much in almost the same color scheme, very, very similar. And then the one male Mandalorian, his armor is exceedingly similar to Jango, but he only has I think he has just the one pistol, and it's not the same type of. It's more of a Mandalorian pistol as opposed to Jango Fett's. So not the same. This is the only place you're getting Jango Fett right here, at least for now. And then we've got 2 Magna Guards also. And so, very. One thing that's interesting here is that these models aren't going to be that much larger than Star Wars Legion, but the bases are a lot larger. And one of the things that is letting them do is letting them get these really wide stances, right? And so they can get a little bit more dynamic stances without having to put everybody on a rock, right? If you'll notice, there's not a whole lot of tactical rocks here. There's some, but like this pack, for example, has only just the one for Jango. And so it's a little bit more like a lot more instances where people's feet are just firmly on the ground, which means if you want to do your own custom basing and you don't want to, you want to put them on dirt instead of this, the basing options they have here, it's going to be that much easier, I think, which is, I'm actually in favor of that. So what we've got here, we also have the same thing. We have 3 unit stat cards, 3 stance cards, and 3 order cards. Now, this doesn't really clarify, this doesn't illuminate the situation too much, because you still have a lightsaber wielder here, right? So the stance cards could be for every unit, or it could just be for lightsaber wielders. I'm also curious if they're going to be the same stance cards that we get with Obi-Wan or not. Interesting stuff. And then, of course, the core set. There's a ton to look at here in the core set. $164.99 for the core set. Lots of close-up images of the models. By the way, this was the guy that people thought was Jango. Looking at that, can't you see, like, okay, I can see why people would think that was Jango. Keep in mind, only one blaster, though. Only one blaster here. That's going to be probably the easiest way to tell them apart. What you may want to do with yours, you may want to consider a slightly alternate color scheme, or maybe adding some additional battle damage to this guy's armor that would kind of make him less confused with Jango. It's easier to tell for the female armor because it stands out a little bit differently. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool. All right, so as we are continuing to look at some of this stuff, there is, what else do we have in here? We have the back of the box. We can see this in a little bit more detail. All of the contents. We're getting range tools. You're getting the order cards. You're getting unit stat cards. 12 stance cards, right? So that makes me think that maybe all the stance cards aren't the same, right? Because if it's, you know, but how many Force users do you have in here? Again, it's the same ratio when you look at each individual squad breakdown, how they're kind of grouped. So I can't wait to find out. We also have struggle cards in here, dice, the struggle token. We talked a little bit about the struggle tracker. That's how victory points go. You've got, you know, different points on either side and 0 in the middle, and you're able to gain momentum tokens to fill that up. The struggle tracker, the punch board, and of course the rule book, and 16 miniatures, 23 terrain pieces. Let's look. They show us a little bit of the terrain in here. We can kind of see all of this. I want to open this image in a new tab. But let's take another look at that. Can I zoom this in a little bit? There we go. That's a pretty big amount of terrain. You know, if you look at one of the terrain packs, each of the terrain packs, it's got like half as much as this. And so, you know, we do have that sort of tower on the end here that comes in the one pack, and then the ladders and some of these walkways. But yeah, you're getting an awful lot of terrain in the core box. You might not even need a whole lot more terrain, and it really depends. Like I think more terrain is almost always more fun for me. I love having really thick battlefields, and one of the problems with Legion that I was running into for a while is that the more terrain you add, the harder it is to put like vehicles and stuff on your map. And plus there's recommended, like you're only supposed to have X amount or whatever, but even for home and casual games, I really couldn't do too much terrain to make it fair. And since this game seems like it's trooper only, you know, it seems like it's at least trooper focused, I think you can get away with doing a lot more terrain as long as it's, you know, got a lot of those flat walkways and things like that. So you might be able to just kind of go crazy with terrain and do lots and lots of terrain, which kind of has me excited, because that'll make for really cool photogenic experiences when you're playing, and also make for really cool battle reports, which of course is something that I like to do. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so early Padawan Ahsoka Tano, if you get from a local store that will have it, I would check with your local stores and confirm you know, the details on getting Ahsoka. But Shatterpoint is now available for pre-order. You can check your. I'll put a link to the Asmodee store for Shatterpoint in the video description below. That's one option. They haven't given us all the rules for the game yet, so I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence on whether or not they want to pre-order right now or not. There's no rush. I don't think you have to pre-order right now. I don't think there's. I don't know if they're like at risk of like selling out of pre-orders anytime soon. Of course, I couldn't say. I have no idea what the stock is, but generally, I think a lot of people want to wait until they see more of the rules before they pre-order something like this. And some people may be waiting until Adepticon. They're going to be previewing this game at Adepticon. I will not be at Adepticon this year. I'm kind of taking this year off of conventions to financially get caught back up to you know, to where I was before last year. I had a lot of stuff go on, so I'm not going to be doing much in the way of conventions this year, which means I'm going to miss out on getting an in-person demo of Shatterpoint. But I'll be covering it. I'll be watching and waiting, and hopefully I can get a review copy of Shatterpoint, and then we'll be able to get some early content out for you guys. I'm trying. We'll see what happens. But all right, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you like what you saw. If you like what you see, stick around, click the subscribe button, the alerts so you get notified when new videos come out. I do videos just about every weekday. Lately, I've been taking weekends off, and but lots of content out there for all kinds of Star Wars tabletop games like Shatterpoint, Legion, X-Wing, Armada, and barking dogs in the background. That's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will talk to you soon. May the Force be with you, and live long and prosper. And so say we all. And you can't take the sky from me. And be excellent to each other. And, always wash your socks.